Checking in on another Tuesday, another session of Running with WARR Media here on YouTube and on Twitter, on my Twitter page. Cal means means matters is my Twitter. That's what it is. But getting it in another session with one of the regular runners is here. I don't know where the rest of my guys is, but hopefully they'll be checking in at some point soon. But in lieu of that, we got a nice guest here. Definitely a friend of the show, and definitely a friend to many, Mr. Tony Gill, podcast producer of NBC Sports Chicago, and who I call James Earl Jones Jr. because he's the voiceover. He's about to be the voiceover king in a minute. But yeah, Tony,
he already there.
Have you on, Tony.
I think he already there, Kyle.
Nah, man.
He about to be there. He about to be there. He got to get them gigs outside of NBC though, but he gonna get them soon. But he had a nice gig on a nice thing on Friday. It was Friday, right, with the home opener.
Yeah,
and you were the first voice that people heard on that broadcast. And beyond that, Adam Amin shouted you out, after you went off. And like, I don't know if it was the ESPN clip package. Here goes Josh. Or the league package on YouTube, but they kept the Amin shout out to you on there. So so you could hear him shout out Tony Gill. And it's being played over hundreds of thousands of times on YouTube. But Tony's here, for the beginning of the show. He's got to dip in a little bit, but I wanted to get into a couple of things with him. Of course, get his opinion on the Bulls and everything. But I want to get into a couple of things towards that end, sort of professionally as well. We've sort of been along for the ride with you, from working with Dean Davis through the Score and you producing with Lawrence Holmes and everything, and that's you left that gig to go to NBC Sports, and now at this point you kind of blue check Tone now, and you got your thing going, and people are hearing your voice and noticing you and stuff. I mean, when you first made that leap from the Score to NBC, did you envision these sort of things happening for you?
Thanks for having me on. What's up, Josh?
Long time no see.
Every step you take, right? Every step up, every new opportunity, you want to take full advantage of it. And I just kind of view it as kind of natural progression as you move on to the next thing. I don't want to make another move unless it's a more of an opportunity than my last one. And I, so far it's been kind of that steady progression of every time, I get another gig or I get another opportunity somewhere else. There's always been more opportunities, more chances to reach a new audience. And that intrigues me. So, I mean, if I every time I get that feeling of nervousness, like, oh man, I've never done this before, or, this is a new audience that has never seen me before, or don't know me. I know that's a good feeling. That's a feeling that you're supposed to have when you're about to do something good and you're about to achieve something that you've never done before. So I like to think that I try to envision, what my future is like, but I don't stay there too long because I got to execute in the present to get there to the future things that I want.
That's pretty much speaking of being in the moment and being of the moment and being aware in a way that doesn't constrict you or keep you from doing things. It just opens you up to new experiences and new opportunities. And that's something that's, you know, a very valuable way to look at things that as you grow and mature as a professional, you know. With the voiceovers in particular, because you've done a few now of importance with NBC and like Sox games and stuff. Other, you know, I think you did opening day for the Sox this year, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like you know, when did you first start getting into that, and you know, how did that first opportunity come to you to do something like that?
Actually, my first voicing, you know, venture particular was with the James Jordan project that I did with Julie DeCarroll.
Right, you did. Yeah, you did narrate.
That was kind of like my very first step into narration, and just kind of, you know, using my voice strictly just to, you know, move people other than just talking on the radio or whatever. And I had that experience going into this new gig, and one of the first bigger projects that we did was the I'm Back episode for NBC Sports National. And I just read it because we didn't have anybody, you know, to read it. I was just reading it for the demo, just so we can have something to present for the test trial to our, you know, for NBC National. And they were like, yeah, you should keep doing that. And that's kind of where, you know, they were like, I was like, okay, well, it's cheaper than trying to, you know, pay somebody else to do it. And, you know, I know my own voice, you know, I know how to produce my own voice than, you know, working with another talent, which, you know, I wanted to, you know, work with other people to see if they can, you know, voice it. But once I did the read, they were like, yeah, we don't envision anybody else reading this, you know, script than you. So from there, it became the highest downloaded thing in, you know, NBC podcast history. It still holds that record. And then from then on, they were like, yeah, we're just going to throw you some stuff, you know, here and there. And I was like, cool. I mean, I could use the experience. It seems like a fun thing to do. And, you know, obviously hearing yourself on TV is pretty cool. So that's kind of how everything kind of all started at, you know, beginning of my voicing venture. And then the beginning at NBC, where it's kind of like right away, they were like, yeah, we like the way you say words. So here you go.
Okay, cool. That's yeah, I never knew that. I never knew that story exactly. I've known that you've done these projects, but I didn't know how you came upon doing these particular things in the projects. That's cool. And you know, I fortunately can speak a bit to the sort of team dynamic that is at NBC Sports Chicago now, and it seems it's very much like it's sort of intimate in the way. Even there's a lot of talented folks there, and quite a few people in general. Like, you know, just it's a real professional, you know, professional outfit. But it seemed like on the day to day, we all rely on each other in very specific ways, and there's a lot of overlap with things that people do, and you know, it can seem pretty intimate in the way. And you know, opportunities come from that, you know. So it's pretty cool to see how, you know, to get informed about how you can make more opportunities when you get in the door. You know, hopefully I make some opportunities for myself as well. But the way that you've really done things have been really inspiring. And you know, I think for anybody who gets in the game and who, you know, finds themselves in a situation where they're in a big, you know, sort of corporate or established, you know, because, you know, a lot of people who are going to be watching this or listening to this are coming from you know, independent backgrounds, or they haven't had those big jobs yet. And you know, I think you definitely set a good example of being able to transition and keep moving up the ladder and doing things in a natural way that's fun and not, you know, it keeps you, you know, really progressing in an interesting way.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's just all a part of just be you. Like I know Matt Nagy says that all the time, but but
Got to
I mean
find the
it's
why too. Be
right.
you and find the why. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, as long as you just be yourself and then hone the craft that you want to, accomplish, be humble, work hard, all those things, people will notice. It may take a while. It may, be hard sometimes, and the grindy stages. You gotta, some late nights and stuff like that. But if you truly love what you do and love the business that you're in, people are gonna notice, and people are gonna know that, oh man, this dude's genuine. He's a grinder, or she's a grinder. They work hard, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Like none of that stuff goes unnoticed once you put in the work. So yeah, you're right. You're right. Like if taking advantage of every space that you're in, if it's something that you're not comfortable doing, learn it. Whatever opportunities, because to be honest, like they're not companies. They aren't gonna say no to a lot of things, especially if you're willing to put in the work. Like it's
Right.
hard for them to say no to somebody that wants to work hard. Like,
and like you said before, if you could save them money and get them clicks,
yeah,
you do either one of those things. That's a good way to go.
yeah, that's a huge step up when bosses and people that are the gatekeepers, of media. That's how you get your foot in the door. Oh, this person's always here. This person's really aggressive. This person is consistent. And that's what they're looking for. And then once they see that, okay, this person is consistent, they're passionate, and they work hard, and then they do good work as well. It's like they can't deny you. When you say, hey, I want to do this, I want to try this, because you have the history and the background for them to lean on and say, okay, this person is going to do this justice.
Right. Yeah, well, there you go. We give you a little bit of game here at the top of the show. Media game there with Tony, and before you go, we get about 10 more minutes here with Tony. I definitely brought you on to get your opinion on the early play of the Bulls and everything, and let's just start with that. 4-0 start, the first since 96, 97, I believe, and
Josh, you was born, Josh?
94, baby, 94.
Yeah, that's how long we talking about, man. But every time they've done it 3 times, and every time they've done it, they've at least got to the semifinals of the East. Of course, two times they did it during the dynasty, so they won titles of those times. But pretty impressive stuff. They had two of the games. The opening game against Detroit and yesterday was a little bit tighter at the end than you might want. But it's probably some people look at it as a good thing that these were the type of games that they would easily lose as recently as last year, and they're pulling out these sort of games now early on, and some good things being established here. So I'll start with you, Tony. What's your thoughts overall on the team and the way that they're performing? A lot of scoring, some good defense, some timely defense at least, and a lot of talent. It's been a long time since we see this much talent in the Bulls uniform.
Yeah, and the bar was so low, even for this. Once we even knew the final roster, like the bar was so low for this team. It's like you don't want to put too much on them, because you're going to be disappointed. Like I'm pretty sure you guys are watching last night's game and just was like, okay, here it goes again. Like this is new group, same thing, as that lead was slipping, but they didn't. Like, I mean, they lost the rebounding battle. There was the turnovers in the fourth quarter. The slippage in defense in the fourth quarter, but they still won. And I don't think that is depressing. I got we put out the Bulls Talk podcast yesterday, and they were like, "Oh man, this podcast sounds so depressing," and I didn't think so. I'm like, look how far the Bulls have come where they were losing 20-point leads last year, and now they're winning those games. They don't look dejected. They don't look lost when teams punch back, and teams are going to punch back. And that's all you want from, the team that, you're covering, or, for a fan that you're rooting for, is when things get hard, don't just sit down and just take it. Pause. You gotta fight, bro. Like you gotta keep going. And then Zach having that person to be that number 2 scorer that he can trust. And I think this is a big thing. And as much as it's still early in the season, it's only been 4 games. I think that game will be important for Zach LaVine for this season, knowing that he can trust someone after he was told Lowry is supposed to be his number 2, and then Lowry being inconsistent, and then Kobe was supposed to be his number 2, and Kobe's been inconsistent, and he just never had anybody, and now it seems like he has that either in Vooch or in DeMar DeRozan. So last night's game and the last 4 games have been exciting. It's been exciting, and we kind of knew this was going to happen. Like for the next at least 2 seasons. The Bulls should be a playoff team, and they should be exciting to watch. Now, past that, we can go over that, when that time comes. But for the next 2 years, the Bulls are going to be contending for playoff position, and it's certainly refreshing.
A shout out to D coming in with a couple of early chats. Definitely a good guy who provided me and Tony and all of us with opportunities. He says that last night was a good learning experience for the team. I definitely could agree with that. I think though they're gonna learn a lot more in the next 2 weeks, and next couple of weeks. Me and Drew on Monday Night Means yesterday went over a little bit of the schedule coming up, and we're gonna do that again later in this show. But they got the competition gonna ramp up a bit coming up, but. Like I said, it's good to see them not choke games and not necessarily play down the competition, at least in the most important parts of games. But we sort of just nibbling on stuff that we're going to talk about for the remainder of the hour here with Tony as we still got him. And another thing that I wanted to get your opinion on is the NBA 75. Since we have you. And I know you have some strong opinions on that and on some of the people who made it in particular. So
ain't nothing like a good list, right? To rile up a crowd, right? Like that's the go-to for all sports media. Put out a list, you going viral.
And the NBA knows what they're doing because they know who talks about the NBA the most on Twitter and all that stuff. So they got everybody riled up. I still think they should have held out to the All-Star break, but I think their reasoning was they want people to speak about it right away and get into it and sort of dissect it throughout the season, and it looks like that may be the case in a lot of ways. But
I thought they should have released it in pieces throughout the season. That's why you keep the conversation. And I thought the NBA got a little soft too by not ranking them.
See that? That'd have been too. I think people who voted on it said it was hard enough to leave people to decide the list in general. To rank it would have been like that'd have been kind of hellish, and then I don't know. It's been interesting. I think I've seen like Slam has put out some lists though where people have listed guys. And I've seen Mike come in number 1 more or less, and that's all I want to see. See, that's the thing. I don't really care. I don't really care about 2 through 74. Just get 1 right, and we'll be cool.
Tony, you dropped the bomb right there. You talk about the ESPN and the Sports Illustrated top 100s and the way people are going crazy about that. I couldn't even imagine. You talk about the 75 greatest players ever and trying to nitpick who's going to be where and what eras this guy played in and what's going to happen if he played in this era. That would have been ridiculous, to say the least.
That's why you got historians. That's why you got all these people dedicated to it's their job to do that stuff, to put out a definitive list for the NBA, it would have been the biggest thing all season. Like all season, as he dropped the first 25, and then wait till All-Star break to drop the second 25, and then heading into the playoffs, he dropped the last 25 and have everybody go crazy. Like
definitely would have added to the drama. It added to the suspense. Because on the third day, people was like, "Oh, well, is I haven't seen this person yet, or seen this person. Who are they going to make it or not?" And I guess the one guy who I wanted to get your opinion on, and D brings him up, you know, is Reggie Miller. You know, Reggie makes the team, and he, you know, he was pretty surprised, I guess. At least he feigned,
he should have been.
Feigned the surprise on TNT. And I know you've had some strong opinions about him throughout the years. Now, you know, I don't know if Reggie is necessarily a you had to be there player. I think there's some explicit ways that you could express his importance to a particular era, but I don't know. You go off, T, right quick before you go off and tell me what's your final verdict on Reggie.
Yeah, I mean, what else did Reggie do? You know, it's like it's a reason why, right? Like he didn't win the championship, and it's obviously because of Jordan for the most part, right?
Yeah, and Kobe and Shaq.
Right, and Kobe and Shaq. And again, but all great players play against great players, right? And how you perform in those moments is how we define your career. When you think about the 75 best and greatest players in the NBA, and obviously nobody is, outside of, Jordan and, LeBron is kind of excellent at everything. But if all you can do is shoot, right? And I can name 3 off top that's better than you. It's like, I mean, I get it. It's Ken Davis, he always gets on me. It's one of those you had to be there and watch Reggie, and they built a team, around him, and those teams were tough and stuff like that. I think it's a credit more to the GMs that help put those pieces together around Reggie to make those teams, really good. Not saying Reggie Miller isn't great and, he isn't a Hall of Famer. He is in the Hall of Fame. But I just don't think I think Klay Thompson's better than him. I think he took a spot away from Dwight Howard. Like, you can even throw in Bernard King if you want to, fight that fight. But yeah, I just thought there were those 3 in particular should have been on the list for me. And yeah, Reggie, I'm kind of out on him.
I think I agree with you in that he is in that same space with those players that you mentioned and a few others. And I think Reggie's lack of and I think his numbers in bulk hurt him, or numbers just on paper kind of hurt him. If you look at him and compare it with others, I think the biggest argument for him though is his moments. And
all right, Demond.
His moments, he had some defining moments in the 90s, and also the game.
So did Robert Horry.
Yes, Robert Horry did. He had quite a few moments. Reggie, I think, helped mature the game in a way with the 3-pointer, because I think I heard the stat was when he got drafted in '87, the average team shot, I think it was attempted like 6 threes a game. And by, of course, the end of his career, he had set the all-time 3-point mark, and the game was a lot different by the time he left. So he did have an impact on the game and its evolution. He just didn't have the final say on the 3-point. It was more to come after him, unfortunately, with Ray Allen and, of course, the Splash Brothers and everything else. But he did help set things forward. And, there's a negative side to this as well that I'll go into later in the show. But, I'm still borderline with Reggie, man. But he did. It was like you had to be there, and also it helps that he's on TV every week. That's
Yeah,
why
it
I'll
does.
start with.
Yeah,
That's why
it
I'll
does.
start with on the other side of this. But
yeah, also
you know,
Bill Walton, get him out of here too.
well, Bill, that's sort of another thing there with Bill. But Bill Walton, look, me. See, that's why Chris should be on here because Chris fought with me on text about this. Like, and I knew that I know this, but I was sort of being a devil's advocate for Paul Gasol in particular, but and Dwight, but Walton's peak is as good as any peak that there's been. As far it just was really short. That's the
It
bad
wasn't long
thing.
enough. That's the thing.
It was short. But he's sort of like a Gale Sayers, man. Like he had like 5 years where he was untouchable, and then injuries took him out the game. But
that's unfortunate. Dwight been playing the league for what?
But that hurts the white. That hurts the white too. The white been a scrub. I mean, arguably a scrub for a few years, and people look at that and be like, man, I can't rock with you right now. And people still coming at his head. His own teammate came at his head the other day. It's like you gotta finesse things, man. You gotta make people like you too. It is a popularity contest that's part of this too, man.
Dwight needs to be in there. You look at
his numbers. I'm not arguing that, T. I'm not arguing that. But at the same time, we know the steps. We've seen in live time the missteps that Dwight has made. So he'll be on the top 100, but he just got to wait his turn. It's like Dominique. Dominique didn't deserve it, but he had to wait his turn. So,
I'm just tired of people disrespecting Dwight Howard like he wasn't the second best player in the league for like 3 years with LeBron.
He was dope. He was dope, man. He still is dope, and to a degree, but he is like I understand it. I'm just that's all I'm saying.
Man, what's crazy is Reggie didn't even make the original 50. So now, I mean, in hindsight, I'm just thinking about this now. Like he didn't make the original 50, and then you got all this next generation of players that's come in, and then you put them on this list. So I mean, to Tony's point, I'm kind of like you, Kyle. I'm on the fence, man, because I know what Reggie, as a fan of the Bulls and a fan of like 90s basketball, like Reggie did have a spot. He
scored 9 points. He scored 9 points in 6 seconds in the Garden, man.
Right, I know. Nick fans ain't got no problems with it being on that list. The way he massacred them dudes, but
yeah,
I see both sides, and it's hard for me to plant both my feet on one side of that fence, man. I don't know.
They let Black Kyle Korver get into the top 75. Come on, man.
Wow. Don't do that.
Dude, I'm gonna have to kick you off now. You said you had 30 minutes. I'm gonna have to kick you off. He started to take advantage of me now, T.
Wow.
Y'all scared of Black Kyle Korver. Y'all have Michael Jordan scared of Black Kyle Korver.
I'm saying, man, the disrespect. He was not no Kyle Korver.
If Kyle Korver was Reggie Miller, the Bulls would have a chip. I'm gonna just say
exactly.
that.
Exactly. They would have won with Kyle Korver, with Black Kyle Korver. Oh man, you too much, T. You too much, man.
Oh my God, man.
we gotta get you back on and talk some more about what's going on, man. But appreciate you getting on with us here, man. And just been congratulations on everything you got going, man. Like I say, appreciate the hookups and everything throughout the years. And we gonna keep it rising, man. It's like I say, he gonna when you introducing the new CNN in a few years, they would say that's my dude Tony, man. That's
hey man, thanks a lot for guys for having me on. Anytime, just reach out, make it happen. Just stay tuned. Follow me on Twitter at @Tony Gill. Got some stuff in the works. So just follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and you'll be able to keep up.
Definitely. So
Appreciate
got a lot
you, Tony.
going on, man. So keep up with Tony, and yeah, definitely. Thanks again, bro. We'll get up with you soon.
Yep. See ya.
All right, man.
All right, Tony.
My man said the Black Kyle Korver. Wow.
Oh, Reggie, man. It's hard. It's hard for me to defend Reggie, man. I have. That's not in my character, man. But I'm still like before the show. I told Tony like, yeah, I'm on the fence about him, and I'm still sort of there. Like, I don't know. It's tough, man. I don't know. Is there anybody in y'all opinion who just sort of sticks out with you, and as far as the list with, whether they made it or not? Is anybody who just you sort of hung up on?
I was surprised. Go ahead, Josh.
No, I was gonna say that I think for me, and I mentioned it in the chat that we're all in. For me, if you want to really put Reggie Miller in there, considering the argument that is there, in some ways I feel like you can make, even though he only made the finals one time, but now as a star player, I think you got to put T-Mac in that conversation because he did change the game from. I call him like the original Kevin Durant. When you talk about his scoring ability from all over the floor, the effort and how effortlessly he did it at a 6'10" height, which was uncommon during that time frame. He made an impact in the game in that regard. And you're talking about legendary moments that Reggie Miller had where he scored the 9 points in 6 seconds in the Garden. T-Mac scored his 13 points in the last, I think it was 32 seconds or 37 seconds for the Rockets over the Spurs. That was never been done before in his prime. So I think T-Mac at least has a case, even though people arguably won't put him in there. I think he still has a case to at least be recognized as part of 75, especially when we talk about the impact he's made on the game and the fashion that he did it. I mean, Kobe Bryant even said, God rest his soul, he even said that, T-Mac, if he was T-Mac's height, it's a wrap because he did everything that Kobe Bryant did, just at a higher height. He was just taller, which made it so hard for him to defend. So you talk about that on the court on a consistent basis, which at that time was unheard of. I mean, I think there's just a case that has to be made for him.
Oh, okay. I agree. There's a case. I think it's hard to put him of the list of people who didn't make it above people like even Clay, but definitely Dwight and probably Bernard King and a couple others of maybe even like a Mutombo. Like these guys were dominant in ways that if you want to appreciate the game holistically, like appreciate defense, appreciate just team play. I think there's other guys who I would probably put before T-Mac, but T-Mac was definitely a hell of a player and another guy who added on to the evolution of the league. And it's tough, man. I guess the one thing that I've been thinking about since last week that I was going to sort of propose is that over time, I think the NBA should sort of think of separating the eras and doing something similar to what baseball has done, where baseball is sort of particular and it sort of has the segregation that's involved with the sport, but also other factors like as well. But they sort of have like a modern era and a era before that. I forget what they say exactly what the names of it are. But the NFL even more so has a particular split with the merger era, like it's pre-merger and post-merger, like when the AFL and the NFL combined and became the modern NFL. And you had the Super Bowl era too, and everything. You sort of have that because you have that separation there because people ain't comparing Bronco Nagurski to Derrick Henry, and or Red Grange to Emmitt Smith or even Walter Payton. Like it's a separation that's there. And I think with the NBA, you got to look at around that time. They had a merger too, where you had the ABA coming in with the NBA. So I think they may want to think about using that era or maybe even like that 79. The 1979 year when Magic and Bird entered the league, and also that's also the same year that the 3-point line was established in the league. I think you may want to look at, you don't necessarily have to use it for statistics or anything because that sort of played out itself. But in regards to these sort of listings and these groupings of greatest players and stuff like that, because people are picking on some of these black and white players, I call them, like Dolph Shays and stuff like that. I saw today on a guy who actually we talked about a few weeks ago and gave some flowers to, JJ Redick, was sort of picking. He was like, he said on his podcast, like, I love to play Dolph Shays one-on-one and beat him and take his spot on the 75. People be doing them black and white players bad, man. It's like they couldn't help that the game was only reached a certain point at that time, and for whatever sociological reasons there were, they weren't as segregated as baseball, but they did have, so they had certain rules like you couldn't have two black players on the court at the same time, stuff like that. All that funny stuff that went on back in the day. But, you also, the game just wasn't coached and players weren't, trained in the same way that they were then. There was a lot of different things that factored in. And, so those players they dribbled with one hand and they did set shots and they did the things that they did. They did them well enough to be remembered. We shouldn't forget those players. If you want to be a real student of the game, you got to be able to factor in those players and those moments from before you were born. But we still should be able to accurately and correctly size up the players since then. And I think if you may have to, like say, at some point, sort of take out those 50s and 60s and early 70s from out the equation, and maybe just look at things from Bird and Magic since, and then we can have maybe a more accurate discussion, and we could factor in more of the players that have made an impact then, and not necessarily look over so many.
Yeah, no, I like that idea, man. It kind of helps keep everything in proper context, going by eras or kind of getting a dividing line to separate, when the game was this way compared to what it is now, kind of like the dial-up versus the wireless eras. I like that. I like that idea. But there's a small part of me that doesn't want to make it easier for the people that are gonna be doing these votes. Like if these are the greatest players ever, like it needs to be a process. It needs to be like a little bit nerve-wracking, a little bit stressful. Like it needs to keep you up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like that's the only thing. Like that little small piece. Like
but the guy that makes the guys who make it earn it. They've earned it, and everybody, the people who did make it earned it. But I think you also have a factor of in the current days where players sort of get. I think this is a phenomenon that happens too with Hall of Fame voting, where if a player sort of sticks around in the public spotlight a little bit more, or if they have more of a better relationship with the press and the public overall, they sort of get more of a benefit of the doubt, with things like this. And I think that's where certain things factor in with a Reggie Miller or a Bill Walton. And, people are like, well, this is a person who we associate with basketball still because we see him on TV every day talking about the game and whatnot. And, their numbers may be a little negligent or they didn't win titles and stuff, but we still associate them with basketball. So, let's bring them in. And yeah, if you're more of if you look at it with more of a discerning eye like Tony does, you may have an argument on the other side, but I don't know. It depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think the other small thing that this list what kind of hit home for me is just the guys who were destined for greatness to be on these lists, to be well, some of them are Hall of Famers, but the Grant Hills, the Penny Hardaways, Derrick Roses of the world, man. Like these guys they would have been some of the best players we've ever seen. They still are to a certain extent, but because of their injury history, we didn't get to see them, especially Derrick Rose, at his peak. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think he had 3 strong seasons before injury started taking his toll. And even though he's still, he's still in a different way a force to be reckoned with nowadays, it's not what it was.
Yeah, and it sucks. Like you can't really make it, even though, he's got to be one of the few MVPs who's not on the list. But
only him and Jokic. Yeah. I'm going to cut you off. Yeah, him and only.
No. Yeah, okay, right. So it's only 2. Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's rough, man. So, but you can't really make that argument for D Rose in the top 75. And you look at someone like Grant Hill. Some people were pushing for Grant quite a bit. He's still, regardless, in spite of his injuries, I think he's made like 7 All NBA teams or something like that. So he's done a hell of a lot for himself. And Pete Grant Hill is like, he was a star and he was a fantastic player, man. So you get so many, like say, those type of stories are really in every generation. You got guys like that who just they had so much talent, and you guys too, like in the 80s, like Alex English and Adrian Dantley, and people who scored mad points and played a lot of good ball, but they got kind of pushed to the side in some ways. Like Adrian Dantley, the story with him in the Pistons, man, is kind of bogus, man. Like he was there just enough to see that they were about to win the title. And just when they was about to win the title, they pushed him out because he wasn't getting along with Isaiah and them. So he's like, we gonna get you out the door. But hey, that stuff happens, man.
True. Part of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah. As I say too, like with Dwight, man, you got to deal with people, man, and people got to deal with you. And if people ain't feeling you, they ain't feeling you. So it sucks, but yeah. But let's get back to some people who are currently popular, those Bulls, and like I say, no real arguments or anything for how they doing so far. I'll throw it out to you guys. We heard from Tony, his opinion on the early games. Josh, we get some words from you, man. What's your observances about the Bulls in their first week or so?
A lot of talent, a lot of excitement, a lot of built-in chemistry, and a lot of trust in ways. Tony actually hit on the head to me when he said that Zach LaVine finally has a go-to person that he can trust. If you watched the last game against the Raptors, when the Bulls league was derailing slowly but surely, DeMar DeRozan to me, looked like the most calmest dude ever, leading the charge at the end of the game and coming through with those big clutch shots to keep this team afloat and pretty much seal the deal. And for him to do that, it's really what the Bulls need, especially since even though Zach LaVine can do it, he can't do it all on his own. He needed someone that can go get a bucket every time, especially when he has his off games, and then all the pressure is not on him to perform at such a high and efficient rate. DeMar DeRozan was the perfect slide in for that, and it showed in that Raptors game. And because of that, that gives hope that when Zach LaVine is not at his best, or quite frankly, you don't have to ask him to be at his best at every game because you have someone else you can rely on that is a veteran, that is a natural born scorer, and someone that has shown that he when he plays his own style of flow in the game, especially in the offense where Billy Donovan promotes flexibility based on their talents. DeMar DeRozan is the perfect slide in next to a crazy scoring, growing player in Zach LaVine. And that showed in that Raptors game. I think for me, that was the biggest thing that really took place. Aside of the fact that the Bulls, held on to the lead and ended up winning the games, and they're going to be more tested with against the bigger and better over 500 teams as they go into this tough road stretch. But to me, the biggest thing was, okay, we actually have hope that there's someone else outside of Zach LaVine that we could rely on in clutch game moments. Lonzo Ball has been great with his jump shot and his three-point shooting as the season started off. He's been great defensively as well. But I think the real key here is DeMar DeRozan, especially since many of these experts and many of these senior writers and everything have bashed the Bulls all summer saying that this wasn't going to work. This game against the Raptors showed that it can and it will work because of the trust that Zach LaVine now has with DeMar DeRozan. Now DeMar DeRozan has been able to utilize what he's been able to do for all of his years in this league, be a closer down the stretch, especially when Zach LaVine is not consistently hitting them. And that's one of the biggest differences that really played the way, especially for this Raptors game. So it gives hope. And as long as that hope continues and those players continue to show up, the sky's the limit for the Windy City. But that's, to me, one of the biggest takeaways that I took from it.
Yeah, that's you well said there, Josh, man. And it's, the right yesterday, and that's his first signature game as a Bull. And going back to, like you said, the response when he signed with the Bulls over the offseason, it was so, for those who were just so vehemently against it, it was, what are you saying? Like, you acted like they really didn't really. They proved that they didn't really follow the Bulls that well last year, and they didn't realize how much in need the Bulls were of a closer, of a fourth quarter scorer. And people were hung up on these things like, well, he doesn't shoot threes, particularly well, and this, like, that's why I hate so much of the absolute way that certain people look at the game. They try to build every team in the same way, and they try to fit every team into the same mold. And there has to be room for a specific or a unique chemistry that teams want to take on for themselves. Trying to be Golden State, everybody ain't trying to be the Lakers and the Bulls. Have had the confidence in themselves to build the team that they wanted to build, and what do you know? They're getting off to the start of the season that they wanted to get, and they've shown the difference in competing that that we've all wanted to see in them for years. Because they've had the confidence to build the team that they wanted to, and they ain't just back off of trends and copycat other teams in the league. There's less to be learned,
Oh, for sure. It's, man, just think about it. Like the Bulls made 5 shots in the fourth quarter, and DeMar hit 3 of those. So I mean, his impact, his poise. I said most of last season that I wanted the Bulls to get some free agent that kind of had that asshole personality that could hold his teammates accountable and make sure like the effort was always there. There was some times, you know, the losses against Cleveland, the Thunder, some of those losses where you feel like if there was a different voice in the locker room, somebody would have, you know what I'm saying, got them boys to snap back quick. Like, come on, man, we better than this.
Yeah.
Let's finish it out and move on. And I think
Even
that
during games, you could have, if you had that voice.
Exactly.
Like you could have got out of the holes during them games. Like yesterday was a good example. They let Toronto in to like what 3 points in that fourth quarter. And how many times, like I say, those fans, we got PTSD from how many times in the past they've let teams back into games and given up games like that. But you know, they held on this time. Look, go ahead, Drew.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm watching that game in the fourth quarter, man. Just felt like they were playing not to lose. Toronto fans were in it the whole game, but especially in that one part of it, it felt like old high school games playing at Hales Franciscan or Leo when the crowd is just on your neck, and it just feels like it's spiraling out of control and there's no way to get it back. But the Bulls, to their credit, like we all have said, they were able to get that win. And be able to take the lessons from it and keep moving on. So it's like a win-win for them for sure.
Ain't nothing like one of them tight Chicago Catholic school jails, man. When you
I'm sitting there, they throwing these turnovers. Lonzo Ball had 3 turnovers, and Caruso had 2, and they had 7 total just in that fourth quarter, where they only had 5 leading into that fourth quarter. So it felt like, man, this is snowballing. They about to blow this game. Like, we're gonna be here talking about how Zach was this close to his 4th straight win again. So I'm happy that they were able to pull it out, even though it was hard to watch there in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's another stat that arose from yesterday. Zach LaVine, for the first time as a pro, for the first time since UCLA, getting the 4 wins in a row. That is, man, God bless him, man. you play that long, man, and can't get 4 wins in a row after, you know, it makes me think in a way to, you know, I'm not going to talk about the Bears, but I think we all saw how Justin Fields reacted, or heard of how he reacted after the game Sunday, and seeing in real time a young man who, you know, he's had some adversity in the game, you know, like when, you know, he lost a job in Georgia and he had to transfer to Ohio, but he's never known the game of football to be as challenging as it is, you know, in the game sense, where, you know, you just can't, you get on that field, you just can't do shit, and you're getting your ass kicked. And, you know, in a similar way, Zach LaVine had to deal with that for, you know, how many years in the league now? Like 8, 9 or something?
8.
Yeah, like with the Timberwolves and the Bulls, just horrible year. You can't even win 4 games. Like the will within him and the self that exists in him is very admirable. You know, not only he didn't give up on his team and give up on himself. He's still a better player, and to be the best to be. He's playing better ball each, and we see how confident he's been starting shooting threes and, you know, shooting longer ranges, and, you know, putting points that he's putting up. He's, you know, he's doing a great job. He really is, like, you know, he's really saying I'm a number 1 out here, and he you know, just he's doing everything he can to prove that.
Yeah, and I think one of the other components that's overlooked, that especially in that Raptors game, but especially down the stretch, Zach LaVine actually stepped up defensively to stop, especially when he was guarding Fred VanVleet, to make sure that, you know, to put the clamps when necessary. He actually stood up defensively, which is something that we know he was capable of doing, but he never really knew how to do it or was that good at it until he actually learned what it was like to be around great talent like that at Team USA camp. And to see how they play defense, to see the emphasis of the culture there, this is where we talked about how Team USA really transformed Levine's overall game. Because it wasn't just him offensively. We knew offensively what he could do. But during the Olympics in the summer, what really stood out was his defense and him focusing on the defensive end to help Team USA bring that gold. That has transpired to this current situation now with the Bulls. And with Billy Donovan being a defensive-minded coach, who is also, has his offensive philosophies and things of that sort, Zach LaVine, I think bringing over DeMar DeRozan and the other talent that they did actually helped Zach LaVine more of a balance, where now he doesn't have to focus on just scoring all the time. He can actually play defense and not just play any kind of defense on anybody, but actually guard the best players when necessary defensively. And it showed, and some of that showed, especially down the stretch in the last game against the Raptors. So hopefully we'll see more of that throughout the season. But it's a good sign to see that Zach LaVine is actually focused and dedicated to the defensive end as much as he is compared to his previous years he's been here in Chicago.
Yeah, I think that's
always great to see. That's always great to see when a player dedicates himself to defending, because it's easy to gun out there, if you got the talent. But if you really sacrificing your body and your spirit out there to stop the other team, that's what leaders do. And that's what standard has been set here in Chicago for that. Jordan did that, Pippen did that, Rose did that. So, if you're going to be a number one in Chicago, you better defend and, give that effort on both ends of the court. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, it's what this team is, probably more surprising than anything, the defense that they play is just an extension of that. Like, these guys are flying around. The rotations look crisp. They're communicating, active hands, like no ball handler is safe out there, man, especially with Lonzo Ball. Like, being able to see him up close pretty much since UCLA. I haven't been able to watch him like this since that. Seeing him and seeing the way that he moves his feet and uses his body, swipes at the balls. Even Vucevic, he gets a lot of flack for his defense, but he can be an anchor or a better defender when the teammates around him allow him to be. He's not Rudy Gobert. He's not going to be at the rim deterring shots, blocking shots, but he can move his feet side to side. He can get his hands in passing lanes. I think he's averaging 2.3 steals a game right now. So I doubt that's going to last, but it just shows the kind of activity that he's giving on that side of the ball. And given the fact that he's shooting so poorly, that means even more that he's not just, out there kind of humming and hawing around because he can't get a shot to fall. Like, he's actually putting forth that effort on the defensive side of the ball, which speaks to him, DeRozan and LaVine, even though they are, they're not youngsters anymore, especially LaVine, especially DeRozan and Vucevic. But all three of those guys, for different reasons, all have a chip on their shoulder and something to prove, even in this point in their careers.
And I, that's sort of a common criticism, if there's been one in the past, the opening week, is sort of the way that Vucevic has played, shot at least on offense. And there's been some other things too. Like, I saw a dude get on P. Will for his game yesterday, and sort of comparing them to Scotty Barnes, which he had a pretty good game on the other side of Florida State guy, and compare some other else they mentioned in the tweet too, another 20-year-old or whatever. But anyway, I think the good thing about this team, and the thing is an aspect that we haven't had with recent Bulls teams, is that they are deep enough and tough enough to where all the guys have to be hitting all at the same time. If Vucevic, like you just said, Drew, if Vucevic isn't necessarily shooting well, but giving an effort in other ways, rebounding, defense and stuff, then he's gonna get through this sort of time where he's still finding his shot or whatever. And People may want him to average 20 and 10 for a whole year. He may not do that, but he may not have to. And that's some of the beauty about this team right now. With if you got 6 or 7 guys who could average somewhere between 25 and 15, you don't need Vucevic to score as much as he would have if you would have wanted him to score last year or in the previous year in this Bulls team. So just be easy about that. Especially with someone like Patrick Williams. It's like I just don't understand the criticism there at this point. If his whole season sort of plays out this way, then maybe we should reevaluate him some. But just 4 games into the season and 1 game in particular where he happened to play against another Florida State product, that don't make sense to me to get on him for having a relatively subpar day. And, especially when he didn't hurt the team. The team, could produce in many other ways around him.
Yeah, it's a little slippery with Patrick Williams, man. 'Cause I'm definitely not out on him by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. And I didn't see the tweet that you're talking about, but I can kind of assume where it was going. I think it stems from last year and has more so to do with just the lack of aggressiveness and assertiveness. Having to be told day in and day out that you are this guy, that you are this good, that you can be this good, you have this much potential. Like having to be told that, constantly almost, it seems like, and it's still not quite clicking. That does worry me a little bit. Not so much with this roster, with the way that it got reshaped over the summer, but if his role was different, if we came into this season with the expectations that he would be a number 2, number 3 guy,
right?
It's different. But like I said, I'm not really give up on him, but him and Barnes, man, Barnes just plays with a different ferociousness, man. Not everybody plays like that. I'm not. Tim Duncan wasn't a rah fiery guy, but he still did what he did.
Right.
But I just would like to see a little more assertiveness from P. Will, and he's got to be put in some better positions too. I think Billy Donovan experimented a little bit with him at the 5 against was it Detroit, I think, and he showed some flashes there. I think he can do some of those same things that Thad Young did for us last year. It just takes repetition, and hopefully, we start to see him start to meet that potential, even if he's not getting those scoring opportunities, just being able to play make a little bit out of pick and rolls with whomever,
Mm-hmm. And like you said, maybe, get some effort points off, rebounds and stuff like that, transition. There's other ways he can impact the game as well. Just, but yeah, the aggression does matter. And, he's got to want to make those plays as well as certain. Yeah. But quick, so with I want to get back the whole the eventual schedule that the Bulls are going to be playing. I think one tweeter, Elias Schuster, kind of put it out there pretty nicely. I'm gonna show a screen here. Let's see. The Bulls got some games coming up. Starting this Thursday, with New York coming in off to a good start and feeling themselves quite a bit. So this is what Elias Schuster said. If you thought the first 4 Bulls games were fun, buckle up. You see it starts right here on Thursday. Saturday, still at home with Utah, who's going to be a competitor in the West. Then you start going on the road, Boston and Philly for 2 in a row. Philly comes here, Brooklyn comes here, Dallas, and then the first West Coast trip, Friday, November 12th. I think I'm gonna try to do a show before that game. I'm stay tuned for that. But That's going to be an ESPN game. So the whole country is going to be seeing the Bulls for the first time there at Golden State. Then that Sunday at the Clippers, and they stay in LA for the next day, back to back in LA. So they won't even get any chance to party in LA, man. They kind of bogus for that. They got to play the Lakers the next day. Then they got to go up to Portland and mess with Dame and them. Then you got Denver. Then you got New York waiting on you back home, and Indiana right after that. So, leading up to Thanksgiving, man, it's going to be quite a challenge for the Bulls. What are y'all just looking at that stretch of games? We don't necessarily have to predict anything. Now, what do you think that stretch of games is going to say about this team potentially?
Well, I'm glad we won the first 4. I'm glad we won the first 4, but this is going to be this next stretch of games against above 500 teams, and most of them playoff teams. It's going to show what the Bulls are truly made of, and if they really are. Well, it's going to show what the ceiling really can be for this team. Because if you think from a ceiling perspective, many can say, they have a chance to be maybe a 3 or 4 seed in the East. They have to be a second round playoff team. They shouldn't be having to play in the play-in tournament. That should be the standard and the ceiling of how high and how far this currently constructed Bulls team should go. However, we can make all the predictions you want, but if they don't show up, they're not going to show up. And I think this stretch is going to show what type of team this really is and how far they really can go. They should be all right. They should be fine. Games should be somewhat, pretty close. And they have the versatility offensively and defensively to keep up with these teams. So they should do better as far as being competent in the competition perspective against these playoff teams. But last year was a struggle for them. They didn't just they showed up for some of these games against the best, but on road trips, depending on the team, they also struggled and didn't stay afloat. They let the rope go a little bit. You're going to go through a similar stretch here playing on all these games, and some of them are back-to-backs. So I'm going to be paying attention to see what the ceiling is for this team is going to be based on this long stretch of playoff games, pretty much. That the Bulls last year struggled for the most part, and in some games really couldn't even compete. So obviously, it's a different year, different team, different roster structure. So therefore, they should be at least pretty decent in keeping games interesting and competitive. But this is really going to show what ceiling and how really good this Bulls team can be, considering last year, where playing against the best of the best, if you weren't on prime time, you didn't always get your best results from the team.
We talked about it a little bit yesterday, Kyle. It's not put up or shut up time because it's too early for all that, but it's something like it. It's like a precursor. Levine wants to win. DeRozan wants to win. Vucevic wants to win. That's the reason why AK or Acme brought these guys in and decided to kind of hitch their futures to Levine. At least that's what it looks like for now. It's because they believe in the team that they put together, and they believe that it can go to a certain destination. And this group of games that got coming up is against some of the best in the league. So this is it right here, man. You guys want to shut up the pundits who didn't think you guys really had what it took or what it takes to be a champion, or question your fit. This is it right here. It's early in the schedule, but you can still shut a lot of people up the way you have with these first 4 games. There's still a but to these first 4 games. If you win, half of these games, more than half of these games, then no more buts.
Yeah, and get all the wins you can, man. Get yourself in the position as early as you can to be in the playoffs. So then, if you have any sort of time where you may slump towards the middle or the end of the season, it won't necessarily kill you. If you could take take advantage of the element of surprise in any way, make it happen. See how many games you could steal off of these already established playoff teams. Drew, any of these games stick out to you as far or maybe like do you have any more anticipation for any of these games than any of them stick out in that way, as I should say?
Oh, for sure Thursday night. That's like that feels like a finals game, man. Just all the elements that are going into it. D Rose and Thibs and Taj in the house, Joakim Noah night. New York kind of getting a step ahead of us in terms of getting back in the playoffs last year, and we're still on the outside looking. The Bulls are still on the outside looking in. So definitely, that's the first one, first and foremost, man.
If the Bulls win that one, we should go to the UC and do a video like they did in front of the Garden after they beat Boston.
We should. We need to do that. There's a lot of Knicks fans talking a lot of trash, man.
Yeah.
Talking a lot of trash, for real. Other than that, all of these games, man, are pretty tough, man.
I think that LA back to back, man. I want to see what comes of that, man. That's a hard one. Like they could at least do off in between or something, man. But it's gonna be a challenge.
It definitely is gonna be a challenge, man. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to that stretch again. A lot of us are. I don't want to say worried, but we're just looking at it like, damn, this is gonna be a quite the mountain to climb. But I'm excited as hell, man.
Yeah, there's no reason to feel like, oh, we're gonna get ran through these. They're gonna get ran through these games necessarily. You just want to see what happens, and if there's a palpable excitement that could be on the other side of these games if they manage to get out of them with a winning record, or something like that. They could really surprise us here, but you also do gotta leave a little space for disappointment. Like if maybe they won't show out the way that we want, and maybe they'll take some bumps, but it won't necessarily be the end of things if that's the case.
True, that's true. I thought they had a date. Oh, there it is. One thing I'll add. The games against, like this Utah game coming up following New York, the games against teams that have a shooting guard that's been compared to or put on a pedestal above Zach LaVine, those are games I'm looking at too.
Okay, yeah.
The Utah games, the Phoenix games, the Washington games, definitely kind of mark those on my calendar to see what happens, not only between the matchups, if they even guard each other, but just the outcomes. Because we saw what winning did for Devin Booker and his reputation, and I think that the same thing can happen for LaVine and how people around the league or the people around the country think of him moving forward.
That's good call, Drew. That's a good storyline. Definitely see the continued maturation of LaVine, and how his individual competitive streak is gonna figure itself out in these games. Like, because is he gonna try to be the best player on the court each time with these games? So that's definitely something to look at. But before we wrap up though this session, you guys got anything that across the league, as we looked at the Bulls, they're gonna see quite a few of the better teams across the league in the next month. Anything from those teams or any other teams that stood out for you in this opening week?
I mean, I don't think there's really many crazy storylines per se for me, except for the two headlines of, obviously Kyrie and Ben Simmons. I think we won't really know or pay attention to these other teams that are playing like that until we figure out what's really going to go down with all the drama that's been happening in the league regarding its vaccination statuses, as well as CBA, the future of the CBA deals regarding how players have handled their exits from their current franchises, like Jimmy Butler did, James Harden did, now Ben Simmons is trying to do. I think those are the biggest things that will always dominate the league until it gets resolved. And we only started, within the first week of games, the teams that are showing the most highlight reel, I guess, maybe, or the most fun per se, is the teams that we always know are going to do it. The Bucks winning the way that they did, even though the Nets, have already lost and everything. James Harden and Kevin Durant still putting on crazy shows. Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry going crazy. It's always going to be some type of major event from a game perspective that's going to come, and what we've seen this first week outside of the Bulls really doesn't surprise me. But at the end of the day, it's the headlines are what drive the audience, and currently the headlines is what's going on with Ben Simmons and the Sixers as a whole, considering they just lost to the Knicks tonight, in the fashion that they were doing, because the score really kind of saved them, because they were down by like 23, 25 plus before they had that double digit loss, lessened to one thing was 13 or 14. But the Sixers came out flat, and they're not looking right. The Nets are doing pretty good so far, but what's gonna be up with Kyrie and what he's gonna do. So I think that's what's gonna really dominate the headlines and really even dominate opening week, and it will be for a while until those situations are resolved.
You're gonna see how many games the Nets can play without a crowd rushing in on them, and protesters rushing in on them or whatever.
Yeah, little things that kind of caught my eyes. Just the slow starts by Brooklyn and LA. I think Brooklyn's like the 8th seed right now. I think the Lakers, I don't know, they might have started out like 11th before this night started. I think LeBron is out tonight in their game.
Yeah.
Nobody expects these teams to stay where they are, but just the fact that they came out the gate so slow, like Brooklyn got they got hammered in that opening game against Milwaukee, man. And James Harden is particularly starting out slow, shooting pretty bad from the field, 36% from the field, 32% from the 3-point line. Like, when have you known James Harden to shoot that poorly, unless he was trying to get out of somewhere, out of some city?
Right. They got to check if he got a fat suit on him.
So just paying attention to that. In the West, Minnesota's the 5th seed right now, so kind of seeing if they got some talent there, see if they can hang on to that. The Kings are an interesting story. I don't expect them to make the playoffs, but a play-in might be possible. Ja Morant leading the league in points per game at 35. He killed. He's looking like he's looking like some hybrid of Derrick Rose and Allen Iverson, man. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, Ja looked like he about had enough of missing the playoffs. So I think the Grizzlies, that's the team you got to look for. And I think in the East, the Hornets may be making some noise, man. They played a pretty good game against Boston yesterday. Boston actually edged them out. But in Boston, too, actually showing a little spark early on. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we'll see how things play out, But, like y'all say, definitely the the Lakers, and to a degree the Clippers and New York seem to be existing as these twin center points of attention for the league right now. Where you got the Knicks and Brooklyn, over in the 2 LA teams in the West. So, but Golden State, it looks like they're ready to reclaim something in the West as well, and it's going to be interesting. Miami may be a similar case in the East too, where you look at the way that they played against. They had a good win against Milwaukee, and of course Milwaukee still there. Milwaukee had that bad loss in Miami, but they played pretty well outside of that. So it's a lot of interesting stuff to see with the league. We gonna definitely have a lot to talk about going forward, in Chicago and elsewhere. So, keep rocking with us, running with WARR. We'll, like I said, I think be on every Tuesday going forward for the time being. But I'm gonna try to do some special stuff too. Like I think I want to do like a pregame show for that that first game of the road trip against Golden State. So keep tuned, keep on with us with that. Stay tuned for that and other stuff that we do. And of course, Monday Night Memes, we got that every Monday, me and Drew. And and from what I hear, we'll have new episodes of the End of Scope coming from Josh. So that's gonna be pretty fun. Yeah, so, and beyond that, anything else that you want to plug, anything before we sign off?
Nah, just be on the lookout for the latest content. I'm gonna try and do some more writing with everything going on and the NBA season starting. So I'm gonna try to get back into some of that. But for sure, like you said, ITS try to get back into some of that as well. So a lot of good things coming your way. So just be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, we got to start doing some college talk too in a little bit. I know Jack Brown, Florida at DePaul, and a lot of stuff in the region is gonna be going about. So try to stay on the beat with that as well. And like I say, it's basketball, man. We got no lack of stuff to talk about in the hoops world. So we'll try to give you some more exclusives, some more interviews with like what we did with Tony. Take you into the processes and the careers of some other exciting writers and media folks in the basketball world with this show going forward, and just do some more fun stuff, man. And that's pretty much all we could say for now. But we'll be back next week. Check us out, WARR Media, on all the major platforms. On YouTube, subscribe to us on YouTube. You'll be able to be informed whenever live streams. Join us on our live streams, and chat with us just like we did today. And that's it, man. IG, Twitter, Facebook, all that. You could catch us on all those platforms doing our thing. Drew, your tag?
Look what Drew did on IG and Twitter. Open 24/7. Check me out.
All types of good basketball and other talk from him and of course Josh.
At Josh M. Hicks Media, Instagram and the Twitter. Be on the lookout for everything.
And me, Kyle Means Matters on the Twitter, and K Mean on IG. And keep rocking and supporting with NBC Chicago as well. So like I say, Tony doing his thing with them. I'm doing a thing as well, putting out content on the daily.
I mentioned to Tony we need that jingle back on Bears Talk, man.
The jingle. Okay.
We need a little jingle he used to do, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Bears, you got the Talk Under Center podcast. Shout out to Ken Davis over there with us.
Yes,
saying, man, we getting around, man. Getting around, Josh on the DePaul page. Drew with on Tap Sportsnet along with us, man. So yeah, I say y'all better catch up, man. Y'all better catch up.
Yes, sir.
But in the meantime, we just gonna keep the thing, and we gonna keep bouncing as is. Till next time, peace out.